Good evening and welcome to the beautiful and brainy world of World Series debating on the motion that beauty is better than brains. Beaming brilliantly to you from Sydney, a beautiful city which, alas, left its brains in Melbourne. I rest my case. On the other hand, bald is beautiful and brains are boring. Or are they? I don't know. I haven't got time to think. I leave that to others while I get my beauty sleep. My father, who was equally bald, follicularly challenged, said to me, "Son, always associate with people smarter than yourself and you'll have no difficulty finding them." Well, we did actually, but here are 6 of the best we could do for the cerebrally challenged Affirmative, Tim Pin-Up Boy Ferguson, Wendy War Harmer, and Margaret Scrumptious Scott. And for the cosmetically challenged negative, Gene Genius Kittson, Ita Brighter Buttrose, and Lex Intergalactic Intellect Marinos. Well, is beauty better than brains? Ambrose Bierce defined the brain as an apparatus with which we think that we think. What do you think? Do you think? Beauty, like smoke, makes your eyes water, but is it as bad as water on the brain? If small is beautiful, is big brainy? Is a big idea necessarily a little beauty? Keats wrote, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." So if you're not beautiful, do you blow your brains out? Sophia Loren maintained that beauty is how you feel inside. It is not something physical. That's easy for her to say. More pointedly, should we concur with the American writer Jean Kerr, who complained, "I'm tired of all this nonsense about beauty being only skin deep." That's deep enough. What do you want, an adorable pancreas? Certainly not. Instead, we have an adorable performer who's splendidly splenetic. One reporter described the persona of the Doug Anthony All-Stars as a well-rehearsed, pseudo-intellectual whirlwind. But from the sons of Canberra bureaucrats, what could you expect? From Tim Ferguson, quite a lot. With appearances on the Big Gig and Das Kapital under his belt, he belted off to England to give the Poms a belting. From the Edinburgh Festival to Channel 4, audiences have paid him the All-Stars' highest compliment of booing him off the stage. Back home, Tim stood against Andrew Peacock on the platform that he was more gorgeous. Or less ungorgeous. Well, I don't know about a beautiful mind, but who's a pretty boy? To open the case... To open the case for the Affirmative, that beauty is better than brains, Tim Ferguson.
I must say, before I begin, what a tremendous pleasure it is to be here in a room with so many beautiful people. Today we're going to witness a battle to the death between brainwaves and bimbos, boffins and belladonnas, Buttroses and rosy butts. Is there anything to actually argue about today? I think this debate is finished before it begins. Even a monkey can tell you that beauty is better. However, it comes down to a simple choice. If you were given a choice, which would you take? A brain the size of a pea and the body of Elle Macpherson, or the brain the size of a planet and the body of a bush pig? Of course, we're all going to take Elle Macpherson's bodies. I can see a couple of wowsers from Darlinghurst in the crowd saying, "The brain, the brain!" I can go to Darlinghurst cocktail parties and amuse my friends. If you look like a bush pig, you won't have any friends. Settle down, settle down. Don't become a rabble. That's right, you'll be about as popular as Alan Jones at a Channel 10 ratings party. Jean? Jean, stop it. Don't, Jean. Sorry. Beauty is a survivor, a long-term survivor. Brains are just a glitch. I mean, they're just a bulbous, pustulant zit on the smooth, sexy, silky skin of history. Brains are a very recent invention. They're a gimmick. You see, 1,000,000 years ago, we were all in the trees and everybody was happy. Everything was fine. Nothing to do but eat, 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 and root, 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 eat, eat, root, eat, root, 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 eat. I think I'll eat. I'll root. No, will I eat a root? I know. Life was easy. There was no school, there was no work, other inventions of the brain. Nothing to do but sit around and listen to the sound of Barry Manilow writing the very first song. Let's not show our age too early. I mean, sure, the girls had a bit of a facial hair problem, but this was the dawn of time. You couldn't afford to be too choosy. Then along came someone with a brain. Dun-dum. And what did they bring with them? Pollution. The H-bomb. Nerve gas. Toxic waste. Sale of the bloody century. Gene, I'm on TV. Don't. Now, in the places where beauty is supposed to take charge and rule the roost, this is what happens. Brains just lie around and fall all over the place. The simple fact is, from my school days, we had 2 smart kids in our school. Only 2, we lived in the country. Alexander McIntosh and Lucinda Barnsdale. Now, these were very smart kids. Alexander, bright boy, body of the Michelin Man, and the fashion sense of a Baptist minister. Lucinda, smart girl, the eyes of a ferret and the legs of a pensioner. Eventually, the pensioner complained she had to give them back, but these were smart children. Now, you'd think school is supposed to be the home of the brain, so they would have ruled the roost. Fat chance. The king of the school was a boy called Shagalot Cooper. Built like a condom full of walnuts, tall, blonde, beautiful, the body of Craig McLachlan and the brain of Craig McLachlan. And the queen of the school, yes, Cynthia Holdback. She had more curves than a piece of melted Siebel furniture. She was beautiful. They called him Shagalot because he did. They called her Holdback because she didn't. Not a brain cell between them, and they ran the place like the Nazi party. Alexander and Lucinda were the sucks, the greasers, the butt lickers, the teacher leechers. The only place their straight A's and high IQs got them was face down in the dunny with a mouthful of dictionary. Because they were smarter than we were, we made their lives an utter misery. Our lives were better. Better! Gene, please. All right, that's it. Well, stop the clock. Campbell, stop the clock. Stop the... Gene, please. Please, it's really hard if you're going to sit there making eyes at me all the time. I can feel your eyes. Every lash is a lash. Please, Gene. Everybody knows that Jean Kittson must be perhaps the most beautiful woman in this whole nation. Jean? Is it Mace? Everybody knows how beautiful Jean is. It doesn't take much effort for her to stay so. Get the one at the back. And I'd have been sitting here and Jean has been constantly... undressing me with her eye teeth. I can read your filthy mind, Jean. I know what's going on in your mind. I don't even like gerbils, so forget it. I'm an officer and a gentleman. Little town flirt. Now, Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary science, stated, the primary incentive for reproduction is physical well-being and attractiveness. Intelligence in no way figures in the mating of any creature on Earth. Charles Darwin, and there's proof. The peacock has its tail. The reindeer has its antlers. The baboon has Alexander Downer's face on its butt. What a way to look at the world. IQ just doesn't come into breeding. Oh, sure, you might say, what about pigs? Pigs are ugly. And they breed, but are pigs really ugly? Are we not just being a little bit piggist? I mean, what does one pig find attractive in another pig? I know what I find attractive in pigs, but I like their lusty, flirtatious eyes, their soft, warm skin, the way their trotters struggle against the gaffer tape, the way their little tails tickle my nose in the morning. Look, there are so many things that are beautiful about pigs. I love these Sydney crowds. A farm boy, as I said. Pigs are a genetic success story because they see the inner beauty in each other. And finally, beauty is a winner. And how do we know? When Andrew Eddinghauser scores a try in the last 30 seconds of the grand final, we all jump up and scream, "Oh, you intellectual giant! You irrepressible Einstein! You genius! Show us your $300,000 pecker!" No! We all leap up and cry, "You bloody beauty!" We cry beauty when we win, beauty when we prevail. This is the human race, and it is a race that beauty is winning, because beauty is better than ITA. Thank you.
If you're not dazzled by the sheer beauty of Tim's impeccable logic, he'll box your head in. Let's head over to the home of brains. In 1947, long before Jean Kittson burst into the world, the Ladies' Home Journal published this priceless praise of pulchritude. The average girl would rather have beauty than brains because she knows that the average man can see much better than he can think. I think, well, she knows what I think because she's smarter than I am. Aren't you beautiful? Opening the case for the negative, arguing that beauty is not better than brains, Jean Kittson.
Thank you. Tim has talked about beauty and the friends it attracts. We on this side stand before you as advocates of your best friend, not your sparkling eyes and your flawless teeth, not the rolling tundras of richly matted hair that cover your manly bosom, setting off the gold locket that contains a photograph of yourself, not the dew that spangles in the early morning on the jogger's perfect brow, but what pulsates behind it. Your brain. Without your brains, we would all be seriously misinformed. The brain brings order to the chaos around us. It eliminates the unnecessary, the unthreatening, the inconsequential. Your brain cuts through the junk mail of life and gets straight to the checks. For example, what lies behind all the bravado? What is the reason of Mr. Ferguson's peculiar view of life? Fear. The fear that one morning he will wake up in his vase to find his petals brown and curling at his feet. Now, the brain brings rationality to fear. The brain tells us that decay happens to everyone. It just looks worse on others. Beauty not only lives in fear, but it reigns in terror. The attainment of beauty is often barbaric, mostly painful, usually ridiculous, obscenely expensive, and always temporary. For instance, one of the symbols of beauty in China was tiny feet. Now, while the local brains were busy getting on with fireworks and gunpowder and paper and astronomy and wind-dried ducks, the beauty industry was busy developing a totally dependent, vulnerable, suffering woman who couldn't walk. Remember wild swans? 2-year-old girls had their feet bound with 6 meters of cloth, their toes bent inward and upward, and a large rock was placed on the foot to crush the arch. Although men found the sight of women hobbling around on 3-inch feet beautiful and erotic, they rarely saw naked bound feet, as they were usually covered in rotting folds of flesh and stank when the bindings were removed to cut off the dead hanging skin. Now, not only was the constant pain caused by the broken bones, but also the toenails which grew into the balls of the feet. Excuse me. If the brains had been thus prized, how much easier would it have been to hobble off and get a library card? In Uganda, infibulation was considered a must for every young girl being presented into society. Society matrons would not have it any other way. A debutante without a clitorectomy, never! Oh, and nor do the men escape. For men in Patagonia, it was considered beautiful to have enormous plates stuck through the bottom lip. Not only was this an extremely painful process, but it made pronouncing your P's almost impossible. As in, please stop putting plates in my lips. Try it. Please stop putting plates in my lips. There are even places that cover delicate parts of the body with hot wax and rip them off in long welts. Places in which anorexic 15-year-old girls with a bit of fuzz on the top lip are dragged off to have red-hot needles inserted into each follicle, and just when they begin to wish they'd asked for the clitorectomy instead, 200 volts are passed through the upper lip. Places such as here and now, and 2 whole floors of David Jones. In the name of beauty, we must endure the agony of nips and tucks. Lips plumped, breasts inflated, waists vacuumed, stomachs stapled, eyes lasered, jowls cauterized. And for what? Because beauty wears out. There are things that prey on beauty all the time. And not just envious friends. The sun, the wind, the sea, facial expressions. To retain beauty, one must be constantly fighting the things in life that destroy it. Namely, living, eating, breathing, drinking, breastfeeding, giving birth, all the elements essential to life are destructive to beauty, especially time. Time acts on beauty, the way time acts on a bottle of Coke with the lid off. Time acts on the brain the way time acts on a bottle of fine wine. And the brain puts time to good use. The brain uses time to get things done. In the time it took Plato to nut out the Republic on the back of an envelope, 4 generations of exquisite game show hosts had come and gone. In the time it took Professor Florey to go from grout mold to penicillin, most supermodels have gone from lingerie ads to discount furniture catalogues. Now, this is not necessarily to equate the brain with genius or superior intellect. It is merely to state the truth. It is the brain that carries its own built corrective device to the ravages of time. It's called getting on. As time goes by, beauty agonizes over crow's feet. The brain merely starts to think that modern teenagers are loud and obnoxious. Beauty loses its hair and its eyesight and its teeth and its taut little bottom. The brain merely loses interest in sex. Beauty trembles at the onset of liver spots. The brain merely starts to think that the National Party has got a lot going for it. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, brains will get you through times of no beauty better than beauty will get you through times of no brains. And that is the beauty of the brain. Thank you.
Australia can't take its eyes off Wendy Harmer. She won't let it. A former colleague says, look, if the attention was off Wendy and the light came on in the fridge, she'd do a show. But seriously, as the older sister of a penthouse pet of the year, she knows that beauty doesn't bring satisfaction. To continue the case for the affirmative, Wendy Harmer.
Thank you, Campbell. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the opposition. Oh, Jean. Jean's not so much had a bad hair day as a bad hair life, haven't you, Jean? You know, one of the things that I found extraordinary about Jean's little speech there was that she imagines, as the opposition do, that your IQ is something that you're going to be able to depend on in your old age. Like a nice, comfy travel rug you'll be able to tuck around your knees. Well, the truth of the matter is, Jean, that while the beauty can take years to fade, your IQ can just rack off overnight. Ask Alan Bond. Your IQ can just come back again in the morning. Or when you've got a phone call to make to Moscow. Perhaps Alan's IQ should be listed on the stock exchange. Wouldn't that be great? You know, tonight the Nikkei index is up 6, the Wall Street is down 7, and after a turbulent day's trading, Alan Bond's IQ opened at 150 and closed at 7. I think Alan should look on the positive side. At least he can hide his own Easter eggs. Really, rely on your IQ. Give up. Is beauty better than brains? Give me a break. Of course beauty's better than brains. It's only a politically correct backwater like the ABC this topic would be given any serious consideration. While we're all sitting here trying to show off how clever we are and scrabble for rating points in Melbourne, 1 billion people around the world, ladies and gentlemen, are sitting down to watch Baywatch. And I'll give you a tip, members of the opposition. It's not for the challenging storylines or the witty dialogue. Although, did you see that episode about the octopus? That was fantastic. It was fantastic, wasn't it? No, people are sitting down to watch Pamela Anderson's perfectly proportioned bum. And why not? I saw you doing Jean's remarks there. You're all sitting there going, oh, yes. I'm glad I'm playing. No, beautiful people have a terrible time of it. What absolute tripe. Why are we rationalising away the deep desire that everyone has to be exquisitely beautiful? Own up. Come on, admit it. Let's just own up here once and for all, not be a bunch of frauds. Beautiful people are the winners of nature's lottery. OK? That's fine. We don't have a problem with that. They've hit the jackpot. Beauty is an eternal human value. Nature loves it, desires it, seeks it out. Charles Darwin calls it sexual selection. What, are we all watching Melrose Place for the ads, are we? When nature wants to get laid, brains don't count. The fact is that these days you don't even need brains. Kraft cheese comes with serving suggestions. Boxes of cornflakes read open other end. The biggest challenge you've had in your life so far is trying to operate your VCR, and even Einstein could not do that. You don't need brains to get ahead in Australia. The brainiest person in Australia, Barry Jones, can't even get the job as Science Minister. You want to be a famous writer in Australia where Where's Wally was the top-selling book last year? You don't even need brains to be an Australian entrepreneur, if you'll excuse the oxymoron. It amazes me why everybody worries about Australian entrepreneurs being in court for thieving money. I mean, how do they think we got here in the first place? It's not like we've ever been good at it, is it? I'll give you another compelling reason why beauty is better than brains, because beautiful people don't realise they're not intelligent. The world is full of happy, brainless people. The cast of Home and Away are a lot happier than we are, right? The fact is, according to scientific studies, we attribute beautiful people with an intellect. Supermodels aren't bimbos anymore. If it's politically incorrect to call someone ugly, it's also politically incorrect to call someone dumb. Elle Macpherson sells her photos to Playboy magazine. We say she's a smart businesswoman. If she walks, talks and doesn't fall over the furniture, we say she's a gifted actress. Even the good old plastic Barbie doll, these days, Barbie is a brains trust. She's had dozens of careers, from astronaut to news anchor woman to marine biologist to doctor. How dumb is Barbie? I'll tell you how dumb Barbie is. She's a 35-year-old single independent woman who owns her own pink duplex, pink campmobile, worth several $1 billion, and she still has her own breasts. That's how dumb Barbie is. Now, I'm almost out of time here, but soon you're going to be hearing from, up after me, Ita Buttrose, an icon of Australian publishing. What was the magazine Ita made her name with? It was Clio magazine. Now, faced with 2 blank pages in the middle of the magazine, what did Ita decide to do? Did she decide to run with excerpts of the Dead Sea Scrolls? Did she decide to run with a couple of chapters of Tolstoy in the original Russian? Reproductions of Bruegel, Marcel Duchamp? No. She ran with Jack Thompson in the nude. And why? Because she knows that beauty is a civilising, motivating, uplifting power. Either that or she knew a quick buck when she saw one. Before I go, just one last thought. Let's consider the alternative. Brains are better than beauty? Sure, Gloria Marshall is going to close down weight control salons and open a college of advanced education. The supermodels are joining NASA. Baywatch is going to be remade with the cast of Prisoner. Not, thank you.
Now, I'm so thick I couldn't follow a word of that. But what a beauty. Let's be sensible again. When you've been voted the most admired woman in Australia twice, you've got to have something going for you. And as Ita Buttrose says, it can't be my looks, it must be my mind. She's always had a mind of her own. At the age of 11, she knew exactly what she wanted to be, and at 15, she left school and became it. The very modern model of elegance, intelligence, and eloquence. A rose is a rose is a rose, but for the negative, it's Ita Buttrose.
Before I get down to the reason why I'm here, let me just answer your question about Jack Thompson. Jack is the most intelligent man I've ever met. Especially naked. His Royal Highness Prince Charles once said, "One never intentionally wants to offend anyone, but my colleagues have asked me to explain the choice of panel members here today. Even though the first 3 letters of my surname spell beauty, contrary to popular opinion, members of this team are not here simply for our good looks. Those speaking for the affirmative, on the other hand, are definitely not here for their looks. I will, by presentation of cold, hard facts and careful exploration of history, demonstrate irrefutably that an understanding of such things as matters mathematical, of equations both essential and quadratical, and of many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse, are of infinitely more value than the superficial, skin-deep matters with which the opposition preoccupy themselves. I would like to make it clear, however, that I don't blame them for their misconceptions, their distorted visions, and their short-sighted evaluations of human worth, the poor fools. But I do blame their romantic ancestors, those romanticists who have disfigured history to favour the questionable advantage of beauty. If we're up to the romanticists, Encyclopaedia Britannica would have been written by Mills and Boon. Now, a classic example of outrageous misinterpretation has to be Helen of Troy. As you will see in my magazine next month, she was actually rather a plain girl, but extremely intelligent, and the first person to cut up potatoes into perfect rectangular prisms. Helen achieved a number of notable firsts. She won the Troy Bulletin's inaugural Businesswoman of the Year award for establishing the world's first fast food chain, Hungry Helen's. And her shop in downtown Athens was known as the place that launched 1,000 ships. How beauticians have glossed over that phrase for centuries. Much in the same way as you polish your chrome dome, Mr. Chairman. The frightened Spartans would refer to chips that passed in the night. And the religious members of the Order of Troy became known as chipmunks. But oh, how the romanticists have distorted history and historical quotations, Mr. Chairman. We should also be aware that Once More Unto the Breach dates back to 1884 to the wedding speech for Zsa Zsa Gabor's second husband. A horse, my kingdom for a horse, is actually attributable to that pedestrian equestrian Princess Anne, and Never Say Die to our aforementioned elder brother. And let us not forget... You're a bit slow this afternoon, smarten up. And let us not forget the classic case study of beauty saved by brains. Cinderella has to be the epitome of the beautiful blonde bimbo, whose only claim to fame was that she lost a shoe. itinerant prince of high IQ and business acumen stumbled upon the said shoe and seized what was the beginning of a lucrative marketing venture. It was he who initiated the now definitive reference book, Whose Shoe? As a guide for those bumbling beauties who leave their footwear all over London. They still read it, actually thinking that a glass slipper will help them break through the glass ceiling. The prince ultimately became king, developed the lace-up model that couldn't fall off, and is forever immortalised by the taming of the shoe. Now, it would be remiss of me to forget the contribution made by Paul Buttrose to this cause. Let me quote from his latest book. "Sautéed in butter, brains are simply delectable." Many of you would be aware that he wrote this on the Barcelona Express because the brains in Spain are eaten mainly on the train. Leonardo Gastronomo, an early restaurant critic of the Schofield School, Florence circa 1546, put it all into perspective when he wrote, "Regardless of how beautiful the Mona Lisa is, ladies and gentlemen, you simply can't eat it." Let us now look very briefly at some main figures in recent history. The importance of mental giants Plato, Einstein, Voltaire, Churchill and Bertrand Russell is beyond question. On the other hand, one cannot deny the importance of perhaps what we would call facilitators of beauty, such as Michelangelo, Donatello, the other Ninja Turtles. Renoir, Beethoven, Geoffrey Boycott and Elle Macpherson, what a lovely pair. They are all, however, demonstratively intelligent. The inescapable conclusion is that brains are a precursor to beauty. As Samuel Dryden wrote in 1631, "Without learning there is but transient beauty." Ladies and gentlemen, if Lewis Carroll were here today, I'm sure that he would be quick to say, "Look through the looking glass, past the beauty, to the brains." Thank you.
Geoffrey Boycott and Elle Macpherson, what a lovely pair indeed. Tim Ferguson thinks Elle is a lovely pair on her own. Sexist beast. The Spanish poet Luis Cernuda penned the platitude that everything beautiful has its moment and then passes away. By contrast, Margaret Scott writes beautiful poetry and is still with us. Living in Hobart, that's no mean feat. The theme of her first novel, The Baby Farmer, was macabre and murderous enough to make her admit that it's very difficult to keep your eyes squarely fixed on horror night after night after night. My wife knows just what she means. And the third speaker for the negative means just what she says. Margaret Scott.
Beauty is better than brains. I hate to admit this. It goes against my ideology. I love the smell of a burning bra in the morning. Nobody more. But unjust, deplorable though it is, the beautiful have a better time than the brainy. Since I have a literary background, I've been urged to stud my discourse with a few gems of deathless verse. Here's the first. Beautiful people are very tall. like L. Macpherson and Jerry Hall. Yes, beautiful girls have necks and long legs. When they do the kind of dancing where you don't lose your partner in the crowd, they enjoy eye contact. But when I was a young person, brushing up on the foxtrot at Madame Adele's dancing class, my partner used to clap me to his stomach like a hot water bottle on a nasty ache. And roam off, staring into space. It was lonely down there, talking to a navel. Even nipples on the shorter blokes had little to say on life. They are not masters of flirtatious thrust and parry. I don't suppose this lot here have ever thought of that. All good-looking, all divinely tall. They can afford to take beauty for granted and set it at naught. But if you were to get Jean, say, and hammer her like a tent peg, so that she went down and out by so much, mark my word, she'd see life differently. She'd very soon see it's not easy to be hip when you're square. And it's not just dancing that's easier for the tall and dazzling. Take going to the hairdresser. Everyone fawns on the beautiful clients, giving them free squirts of spray. And then some young person in a sort of afro tent comes over to me and picks up a bit of hair with all the enthusiasm of one handling a dead mouse. And says, "What do you want done today?" Well, I want my hair done, don't I? They always make it sound as though the only way to go is a head transplant. The beautiful don't have to go through all that. They make money more easily, too. If all you've got is a bit of brain, you spend a year writing a book, maybe you get a few hundred at the end of it, up front. But if you're beautiful, you can make that in an afternoon just by jogging around looking regular. Or letting ants run up your leg. I have beautiful people in my family, believe it or not. And I've seen them getting ready to go out. They can get ready to go out, to go anywhere, in 2 shakes of an earring. But some of us have to spend hours just to look vaguely human. Even when I was young, I used to start getting ready for a Saturday night date at 9 in the morning. I'd put on a face pack that slowly tightened its grip like some hellish clammy crab. And I'd do the Hollywood slant. I'd read in a magazine that if you lie like this for an hour with your head in the carpet, the blood will all rush into your face and swirl away the acne. Doesn't work very well. And in the end, it does something to the psyche. The beautiful, as has been argued, remain calm and happy, relaxed. But the unbeautiful, however brainy they are, get warped by talking to neighbours and battling with face packs. They feel driven to talk their way round their looks. They contract verbal diarrhea. They go into politics. Yes, that's what the embittered unbeautiful do. I bet you've never switched on Order in the House and thought, my, aren't they pretty? Jeff Kennett, you know, would probably be as sweet and mild as any turtle dove if he didn't have that metal hair welded to his skull. And the Liberals would just sweep ahead if only they could find a leader with the right nose. But first they have a bloke who looks like a vengeful pelican. And then they trade him in on one with hardly any nose at all. Sometimes, in photographs, if not baboons' bottoms, Alexander Downer's features are so unobtrusive, you think they've been erased for security reasons. You might as well be looking at a scone. All sad but true. Beauty has the best of it every which way. As the immortal Keats might have said, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. I don't write odes for birds because they're clever.
A short, icy blast from Scott of the Northern Antarctic. According to the American poet Paul Engel, wisdom is knowing when you can't be wise. Lex Marinos had the brains to realize this long ago. Not long after, he'd passed a Bachelor of Arts exam, which it was impossible to fail. He did take honours in drama, but now he's forgotten about drama and taken on anything. For live and sweaty, read animated and perspirated. The third speaker for the negative, forsaking all other Greek gods for the true genius in his own mind, Lex Marinos.
Finally, we have a debate about which I am an unchallenged authority. Possessing neither brains nor beauty, I can claim to be truly objective. In fact, these are attributes that have been missing from my family in recent times. And when I say recent times, I mean the period from about, AD. Admittedly, one of my aunties was Miss Wagga. But that was more of a sort of post-war fundraising thing. It wasn't a bathing costume contest, although she did happen to say that she was very interested in travel and hoped to work with children one day. Now, one possible way of resolving this dispute would be to hold up two photos, one of Elle Macpherson and one of Barry Jones, and ask you to choose. But that's far too subjective. And besides, how would we really know who is meant to represent what? What we need in order to examine this subject scientifically is a proper definition of what beauty is. I'm sick of all those poncy, poetic things about a thing of beauty is a joy forever, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, beauty is only skin deep. And incidentally, if beauty is only skin deep, does ugly cut right to the bone? No, beauty is blonde, blue-eyed, with a sense of humor and firm buttocks. I read it in Clio, and that's good enough for me. And as such, beauty has been the single most destructive element in society throughout history. Now, I'm glad Ita went some way towards dispelling the myth about Helen of Troy. It's true, Helen was a simple adulteress from Sparta. She was brunette, dark-eyed, humorless, with childbearing hips. No, the real culprit whose beauty destroyed Troy was Paris, the charming prince. Helen took one look at Paris, abandoned her own family, eloped with him, went to Troy, which ultimately fried in boiling oil. The first of many such historical disasters. Take the Roman Empire. Who destroyed that? Cleopatra. She seduced Mark Antony, Julius Caesar, Octavius Caesar, and any other Caesar that would seize her. Notorious for her blue eyes and firm buttocks, which were the first of their kind in ancient Egypt. She also had a wicked sense of humor. You try taking a bath in ass's milk and keeping a straight face. And as for being blonde, of course she was. I've seen the movie, and that is the crookest wig I've ever seen. Even Greg Matthews wouldn't wear that one. It's that reckless pursuit of beauty that's done irreparable damage even in our own century. Just take Hitler. Besotted by Eva Braun, he happened upon a Clio magazine she was reading one day and decided it'd be a good idea to have a whole race of blonde, blue-eyed people with a sense of humor and firm buttocks. And he was only repelled by an intelligent man, Winston Churchill, who had a face like a hatful of bums and a bum like a hatful of faces. Imelda Marcos and even Eva Peron, regular subscribers to Clio. And while it's not certain that Margaret Thatcher read it, it's obvious that many of her colleagues did, judging by their feverish pursuit of firm buttocks. And it's certainly not hard to find reasons for the complete disintegration of American society. But if you were forced to nominate just one, you need look no further than Marilyn Monroe. A goddess to rate with Hera, Athene, and Aphrodite. The quintessence of beauty. Hair, eyes, humor, and buttocks. Especially buttocks. Two of them. More like erotic bookends. Where was I up here? You just got to the part about the bookend. Yes, Marilyn Monroe. Now, it would not be too fanciful to suggest that without her, John F. Kennedy would still be alive. So would Robert Kennedy, Joe DiMaggio would still be hitting home runs, and Arthur Miller would still be writing great plays. And Americans still haven't learned. Now they idolize Marilyn clones like Madonna, who's so smart, she wears her undies on the outside of her clothes. And Sharon Stone, who doesn't wear undies at all. And as I look out there upon you, my fellow Australians, I'm pleased to see that you have not allowed yourselves to become the slaves in the pursuit of beauty. Mind you, I don't think it would have hurt if a few of you had tried, because after all, this is no Mensa convention either. But be that as it may, I urge you to resist beauty at all cost. It's dangerous and destructive. Humorous blondes with blue eyes and firm buttocks will be the death of us all. Just consider this alarming prospect. Imagine a country run by Bronwyn Bishop and Warwick Capper. Thank you.
Inside the mind of Lex Marinos. It's not a pretty sight. But to sum up, you don't need a beautiful argument. You just need a quick mind, which requires emptying, and 3 minutes of silence, which require filling up. To sum up, for the affirmative, Tim Ferguson, followed immediately by Jean Kittson for the negative.
Lex, Bronwyn Bishop and Warwick Capper do run the country. Here they are. Beauty and the Beast, Barbie and the Blob. Do you seriously consider getting butt naked and indulging in a bit of the old tongue tango with this pudgy piece of prudish, party-pooping pumpkin pulp? Forget it! And yet over here we've been hearing some lovely things, particularly from Jean. We started with the beautiful, beautiful, sumptuous Jean. I'm sorry, I've got to admit I didn't actually listen to a word Jean was saying. I could see everybody was just drifting off, staring at her beauty. It's very hard to concentrate. But Ita is a very foxy lady, but even Ita next to Jean looks like Bert Newton in a wig. Sorry, Ita, it's Jean's fault. Don't go blaming me. That hissing noise, just block that hole. Control yourselves. If we want Jean to win today, and God knows I certainly do, it's because we've been seduced by her beauty. We've fallen into her beauty trap. Then, of course, we had lovely old Ita. Hi, Ita. How's it going? Well, thanks. Campbell, you get the Barbie wet. Ita, scrumptious Ita. Why, Ita. Ita is the smartest woman in Australia. And what has she built her empire upon? Beauty. And she stood there today and fibbed and fibbed and fibbed, sucking us all in with a sickening subterfuge. Yes, nothing is what it seems here today, my friends, is it, Bert? Then we had good old Lex. Lex, the shining wit. Shining wit. Or would Reverend Spooner have pronounced that differently? The fact is, yes, the Greeks invented beauty. They also invented the Olympics, and I didn't see Robert de Castella running in the spelling bee. But I have a confession to make for you, my dear friends here today. This face that got me where I am today is not my real face. It's only through strenuous effort of my facial muscles that I actually maintain this pretty visage. I'm now going to relax my facial muscles and you'll see the real Tim Ferguson. You may have seen me shopping at Franklin's or on the panel of the footy show. But it's this that got me where I am today. This, the face that launched 1,000 hips. Today we have a decision. Yes, Australia. Do we just want to be overgrown turds from elephants with delusions of grandeur? Or do we want to be blonde bombshells with camper vans, boyfriends and PhDs in astrophysics? The choice is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to consider our opposition with charity and with sympathy. Here they are, glorifying beauty, envying it, and pursuing it. And yet, here we have three people, three thoughtful, clever, come on, let's not unite, three clever intellectuals for some, intellectuals who, for some reason, have turned their backs on their brains and denied their intelligence. Why is it so? It is for professional reasons. Tim, in an auditorium of 3,000 screaming Doug Anthony All-Stars fans, and I've been among them, still has a higher IQ than the rest of the room. Wendy, and I've been sitting beside her at the time, commercial FM radio. Enough said. Margaret Scott. Margaret Scott, thank you. Margaret Scott has chosen to make a living as a Tasmanian poet. Been to a Tasmanian Writers' Festival with my own crayons. Now, no wonder Margaret has to pretend her brains ran out through her perfectly formed ears years ago to crack that market. Consider the fate of beauty at its peak. Two pairs of vacant eyes meet across a crowded room and rejoice in their own reflections. A clandestine lunch, some champagne in a mirrored restaurant, a hotel suite. Not really adultery, more like incest. The angry spouses, the lawyers, a final bitter argument over the division of the hot rollers. Then there's a meeting of the minds. Oh, the glory of the brain, the titillation, the naughty nuance, the sudden notion, the slim possibility, the risk, the chance, the tempting inclination. Oh, the convincing argument, the deed, the delightful vision, the lewd image, the filmy silk curtains, the feel, the flesh, the lust, the passion, the positions, the freedom, the flexibility, the unwanted interruption, the awful thought, the quick mental calculation, the likely problems, the possible repercussions, the husband. Recriminations, the self-loathing, the torture, the guilt. And all in a few seconds, and all in the mind. Phew! None of us begrudges beauty to the beautiful people and their clustering admirers. We only wish for them to have the brains to realize that it doesn't matter. When Albert Einstein died, they put his brains in a jar, not his perfect cherry red lips. Thank you.
the inventive, all-round American boffin Buckminster Fuller noted that when I am working on a problem, I never think about beauty. I think only of how to solve the problem. But when I've finished, if the solution is not beautiful, I know it's wrong. Work that out. Or aren't you up to it? Can you make up your mind, or is your mind on your makeup? Can our audience think, or is it just good looking? Or just good at looking? Let's have a look. We'll take the vote on your applause. For the airheads, by the way, applause is when you put one hand against the other. For the beauticians, don't do it too often or they'll dry up. Those in favour of the motion that beauty is better than brains? Yes, I've got the number in my head. And those against the motion that beauty is not better than brains? Well, if you don't mind me saying so, what a dumb decision. Personally, I'm with Pericles. Our love of what is beautiful does not lead to extravagance. Our love of the things of the mind does not make us soft. All things bright and beautiful, thank God I have them all. If only others shared my view, life would be a ball. Instead, my head's pushed through my hair. Up top, I look a fright, but underneath, it's mind over matter. You don't mind, I don't matter. Good night. Thank you very much indeed.
You can find a range of entertaining World Series debates on video and audio tape at all ABC shops and centres. Coming up, Good Morning, Mr. Hitler.